Welcome to worship with Sabbath Streams Ministries. Our desire is to provide for a spirit-filled, Messianic-style worship experience. We hope you are blessed by today's service.
The waters of life, and I will be like a tree planted by the water.
Play that song in that episode too?
No, he
they
wrote
just
the
played
song
it.
after he saw it. We're live?
Cool. Okay,
We are live!
I get it.
We are live. Is it working? Hi guys, we're somewhere different, and we're in a living room, and we're going to have a good time today, and we're going to learn, and we're going to worship God, right? Right. Is it working? Thank you. And the instructions are there for me to shut it down later, or I'll just figure it out, right? Because she has to leave. Let's start. I'm going to go to the back of the little blue books, and we're going to go ahead and start with,
I think all you really need to do is close OBS Studio and it'll automatically end everything.
I think that's true. We are going to go to, which one is Moedim? I know it's in here. I need to look at my, it would help if I looked at.
Is that the same order we have?
Yes, the same order you have, but I don't have the alphabetical.
Well, so we're kind of
For some reason that's
alphabetical.
missing.
Moedim. 51. 51.
51.
Yeah, that's close enough. That corner is hers and mine.
Do you want to borrow my alphabetical for the rest of them? I'll put it back in my book when you're done.
We're going to start with the Moedim. It's number 51. And 52 is our usual Nikamoka. And we won't have the words up for the people online, or will we?
I don't know if you want to put the table.
She's working on it, right?
What's my tofu?
Matovu.
How beautiful.
How good we are?
Oh, and
Tovi is good. So Matovu is how good, or how, and it translates here how goodly, is the way they translate it. How beautiful, how good, how wonderful are the tents of Jacob. That's the first verse. The first part we do is in the Hebrew, then we translate it. But usually I do all the Hebrew first, right? Israel. piano, it feels different. And not being able to see you guys, it's really different too. It's Jimmy Kamoka.
You want me to turn it around?
Yeah, right. She probably would try.
I can.
I know, it's got a little bit of wheels in there. If you get
No,
it
I
right.
put my rollers on it.
You did?
I put my movers on it, and then I can move it. Next time we do it at my house, I'll have your piano turn around.
Oh, we don't have to have it turned around. Jimmy Kamoka.
I think she's a mover and shaker, she is.
We were the sun shakers.
Huh?
We got the donation to our sun chasers, and they call us the sun shakers.
Oh, I like that. I will have to teach you guys my Reflections of the Sun song to take in.
Okay.
Because I have one that says we're a reflection of the sun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It would go really good with what you guys do.
Nice. Yeah.
There it is. We're going to go to number 78, Holy Unto You. It's rather appropriate for this season. Lord, I come to you with a humble heart, seeking more of gathered here right now today in this house, I thank you for a place that is sanctified that we can worship you at. I thank you that we don't have to be in a church building. We can be in a home. I thank you that you are with us today. And I ask that each one of us, as we have this time separated apart, and as we look at your word and as we go through the motions, they not be just going through the motions, that we see and understand and recognize how good you are and what you have in store for us. And I thank you for this time, that we ourselves will come away from it more kadosh, more holy, more set apart for you, because we have been set apart for you. That's what holiness is. So encourage us and help us to be and to receive that and to be that more. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Over here. It's different in a different place, right? Only that I don't know where all my pieces of things are. All the things that I pull out and use. We have the programs with the Shema. Maybe that's, nope, that's not it either. It's right here. And say, if you don't have one, pick one up. Thank you. Because we're going to do the Shema. Jamie, do you have the shofar here? I thought so. I have mine in the car, but I forgot to bring it in. I was carrying other stuff, so.
Oh, he has one. Okay.
We gotta go find the cover.
Yeah. He was reading our introduction, and I need to rewrite a little bit, but, because that's something that someone else actually put together, and it's very wordy, and it's like, okay. But it still says what our heart is, you know, in a sense, that we are here to celebrate the Moedim, to teach Yeshua in them. Shabbat is one of the Moedim. And so we gather to worship. I had a bottle of water. Oh, it's on the floor, never mind, I found it. Thank you, Janie.
Put it here once, and then I want someone else.
Yeah, I need more water. Water, water, water. Lots of water in this season, right? It's part of purifying and being ready. Huh? Yeah, it's very important right now. So Janie is going to sound the shofar for us. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'shmoach kol shofar. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe. You sanctify us with your commandments, and you've instructed us to hear the voice of the shofar. That's okay. You know what? God says stuff in the shofar.
I haven't blown this one in a long time.
That's part of what he said. No.
Good vibrations, right?
You know, something that I've been learning and something I'm actually going to talk about a little bit today. We don't have to come across perfect. In fact, when we allow ourselves to be real and to be human, God uses us even more. And we're going to talk about the humility of being human. She had to change the camera. Oh, the light is in the way of the string? The camera keeps trying to focus on the string, right?
Oh,
Okay.
it's the string theory.
I'm not ready.
Bob's tall, he can go
You want
over
me to
that
do it?
thing. Oh, never mind.
She got it.
Never mind, Shorty.
Well, let's go ahead and do the Shema as we have been called
My
into
house.
worship. And
He would conk his head on it.
You wanna leave the English part? Like,
I need a scarf, I did not bring one. Oh wait, I got one on my coat, never mind.
I got one.
she's
I
got
didn't.
scarves for everybody that needs one or wants one.
Okay.
So if you want a head covering, she's got it for the women.
I'll need that for the English, that's
Can you
what I
bring
need
me
for.
one too, please, Jamie? I don't know. I left the
Got a
house
scarf
without
drawer.
my-
Sometimes I need them and sometimes I
No,
don't.
that's my Shabbat drawer.
Oh. Not your scarf for, yeah.
One of these days, we're gonna have
Oh.
Shabbat at your house with everybody. Their Shabbat is really nice.
Where is Daryl? Is he gone again?
Pardon?
Daryl's on dinner and
Hi, Daryl. Yeah, we'll wake him up. He's one of these that stays up all night.
So that we didn't have to go.
Yeah.
Pickle one.
Nice. Ooh, that's pretty. I like purple. Doesn't match your outfit today
But I love it.
Pretty though.
It's good. All right. So we'll do the Hebrew and then we'll just all do the English together because we don't
'Cause
need a
we
leader.
can't.
We don't need a leader on it, right? But everyone
Okay.
together, right? Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
Hear Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha Mikol levavecha uvekol nafshecha uvekol meodecha Ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anoki mitzaveka hayom halevavecha v'shinanta levanecha v'divarta bam v'sheteka v'vektika uvlektika v'derek ukshaktaka uvkumeka ukshartam ve'od ayadeka ve'hayu letotefo ve'necha utaftam al mezuzot ve'itecha ubisharecha ubisharecha ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Is that the shofar?
I was thinking.
You were thinking? You seal it with the sound of the shofar. Did we want you to do candles today? Are we set for that?
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
I could do one.
A candle?
I could possibly do two.
That's okay. That's okay. I lit my candles at my home last night. And it's sometimes
When it's Hanukkah, I can't. I could do all 8 Hanukkah names.
Not tonight, not today. I don't like this brand, the bottle's too squishy.
I hate those squishy bottles.
Do you want a glass?
I remember when they went to that, and I was like, what the heck?
It dissolves in landfills better. That's okay.
Better for the environment.
Maybe they want us spilling the water on the earth, I don't know. They want to be baptized and baptize the water. Do you have the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew with you?
I do.
Would you be willing to read that for us in Hebrew and listen to it carefully? That would be the way the Lord taught it to them. Something that's interesting about the Lord's Prayer is it is actually a shortened version of the daily Amidah, which is, there's a long version that if you did the entire Amidah takes, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, if you do the whole thing. But there's a Sabbath day version that's shorter. The Lord's Prayer that we call the Lord's Prayer, or most of Christendom, is really the disciples' prayer. It follows the same pattern as the Sabbath Amidah. And he would have taught it to them in Hebrew, so please read it for us.
Avinu Shebashamayim Yitkadesh Shimcha, Tavo Malchuta Ya'aseh Ratzoncha, Ki Bashamayim Kin Ba'aretz. Et Lechem Hulkenu Tinlanu Hayom, Usmak Lanu Al Chata'enu. Kefi Sheslacham Gam Anaknu, Lachotim Lanu, Ve'al Tavienu Lidei Nisayon. Ke'im Teltzenu Min Hara, Kilacha, Hamam Lacha, V'Hagavura, V'Hatiferet, Le'olamei Olami. Amen.
In English together. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah. We'll get it. We'll all get it, but we gotta hear it a while first. That's the way language
We
works.
should start doing a line at a time though.
Okay.
You know, I thought about that. If like each week
Because I
I
have,
do a line and you guys repeat it, that's
that
how
would be
I'm
nice.
gonna learn.
Yeah.
you
you
can start
know?
that, yes. There's a
Okay.
couple things I wanna start, especially leading up to the new calendar year, even though it's not. It's a different calendar system still. That's one of the things I was gonna ask you about, so I love it that God speaks to all of us, right? Let's go ahead and read the disciples' prayer in English together. You probably know it by heart mostly, and that's the one that we've got here is the one that most of us remember. So that, yeah, at least that was what we ended up with, and we can change that later, which I want to do at some point. But for right now, this is what we have. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Did we lose the feed, dear? Oh, okay.
She's just playing.
She's just playing. No, she's looking at different things and how to do different things, and she's one of these multitaskers that she hears us better if she's doing other things sometimes. I'm the same way.
I have to do that at work
I used to get in trouble for doodling at school,
for a year more.
but I hear better if I'm doing something.
Same.
There's a lot of that.
So,
I
yeah,
do that
there's
at work
lots
a
of
lot.
learning
I have different
styles.
things open. That's why I was texting you while I was working, because it's like I have
Our day demands
everything
all this
going at
kind
once.
Pardon?
Our day demands all this kind of.
Well, and our day demands it. This is something we learn. One of the things that I've learned, we talk about the oral tradition and all of that, and when you talk about that with Americans, a lot of us think about the old whisper game.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that old game?
Telephone.
Where you have telephone, someone whispers something here, and by the time it gets through 4 or 5 people, you have them say it out loud and it's totally changed. That's because we live in a different type of culture. The culture Yeshua lived in, the culture that the Bible was given in, the culture the Torah was given in, the culture, all of that happened. And this is true if you take it to oral cultures like some of the big places in Africa. They are so oral based. They would get together and they would read it, they would hear it, then they would repeat it. They would read it, they would hear it, they would repeat it. most of the time they didn't have it read, they had it memorized. And they learned to repeat word for word. That old telephone game doesn't work in a strongly oral culture.
It says faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. So
And the scripture does tell us that faith comes by hearing. So that's part of why I like to listen to it. And that becomes a plug for the First Fruits of Zion that we're following right now. Their Torah portions that they put out. If you go to torahportions.org, you can plug it in. It will read to you this particular week's Torah portions. You can have it read it to you. I'm listening to it several times now. And it really does improve our comprehension and our understanding. If we read it, if we listen to it, if we listen and watch the words at the same time, that
yeah,
gets it
renews the
in
mind.
and it gets it through. And it helps us see things that we may not otherwise see. Quick announcement, yes.
Okay. We have 4 more, if we all want to read the whole thing, if anybody can do 2.
I don't mind doing two.
Okay.
Just put me down for whatever.
Okay, Sue, I'm gonna put you down.
There's
There'll
a
be a
couple
break
parts I'm
between-
not gonna talk about,
Janie, put you down for another
but
one?
it's good to read them
Okay.
anyway.
Do you want one, Elizabeth?
Sure, I'll read one.
You know, Elizabeth,
You
I
want
was
an
gonna
extra
say
one, Mom?
what I
Don't care.
heard is that, like, even in Yeshua's time, by the time
Dennis, do you want an extra?
Yeshua would have done his bar mitzvah, they could chant the whole Torah.
Yeah.
That was what that training was.
By the
now
time-
we have a portion of
There,
it,
Yeah.
you
everybody
know,
has one.
but yes,
Oh,
they
wait.
they
In
knew.
order to be bar mitzvah,
No, I'll give
in
Elizabeth
Jewish
one,
culture
so
at the time of
you don't
Yeshua,
have to read.
they had to be
I
able
know
to
you don't have
chant
to.
all 5 books
That'll be better
of
for you, I
Moses.
think.
And that's why it has a song.
Everything
so
has a
to
melody
speak,
to it.
So that it's easier for us to memorize that way, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's cantered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I looked into studying, and the price of it was just a little excessive for me. So that's okay. Announcements real quick. Next week is when Hanukkah begins.
Sunday evenings.
Sunday evening, begins on Sunday evening. Is it next week or the week after? It's the 18th, so it's the week after.
Okay, one more Sunday.
We got one more week.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm like, wait a minute. I know. I have so much to finish before Hanukkah. We have a Hanukkah party scheduled, 6 o'clock, on Sunday evening, the 18th. And, there's key people doing different things. And it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be informative. It's gonna be all of that. The focus this year for both is light up the night. So we want to light up the night. We want to bring the light of God into the darkness.
Amen.
So huh? No bombs. Just bonfires. We can do bonfires, but make sure you have a fire
Rise
pit.
and shine, for the brilliance of God is upon you. Isaiah 61, that's right.
Light up the night. Jesus celebrated Hanukkah, you can too. These are invitations to invite people. The first night is on December 18th, 6 o'clock. We're going to begin with a meal. The focus for the meal is something cooked in oil or cheese.
Jeez.
And I will explain.
I love oil and cheese.
Oily foods. Oily foods.
Can you tell?
Does anyone want to make latkes for us? I'm not a cook.
I will do that.
You will do
So
latkes?
they didn't celebrate veganism in that time. If they
Pardon?
did- They didn't celebrate veganism in that time if we were doing.
No veganism.
Yeah,
Nope.
I didn't think.
Usually we we have like fried chicken, that sort of thing, but if you want to make the
Yummy.
latkes, we gotta have the latkes. Does anyone know how to make the,
We'll bring some fried chicken. That
Latkes,
Okay.
what's a latkes again?
huh?
What's a
Potato
latkes?
cake.
Potatoes?
It's a fried potato,
Okay.
fried potato.
Right.
So we start with the
sounds. I'm
meal,
hungry again.
Bob
and
can
then
do
we're gonna
that.
have a celebration. We will go through how to light the candles in your home, when to light them, which window they should be at, when you're not supposed to have it in a window, when you are supposed to have it in a window. Because there's regulations on all of that stuff, but actually what they are suggestions. And what I do is I look at what is the reason behind it,
Yeah.
so that we can talk about what the reason is. Traditions are beautiful, but if they're just traditions,
There.
But
Go
if
on
we
your way.
know what they're there for, why we do it, what it represents, and what it's putting out into the world in a spiritual matter, that makes all difference in the world. So the first night, first light. Then on December 25th is the last full lighting. So we've got full light, full life. So there's stuff being put together for both of those. On the 16th, if you're interested, at For His Glory downtown, we'll be doing some Christmas stuff, and I will be allowed to invite people and do a Hanukkah song too. Because I said I won't come if I can't do a Hanukkah song. I said that stings with a grin. I found another song I'm actually wanting to do this year for that, and it's called "O Come All Ye Unfaithful."
That's a good
O
one.
come weary, unstable.
Mm.
Come, you who are tired, weary, come.
Weary.
Come. He's born for you. This is why he came. Because we are unfaithful. Because we are weak. Because we are not perfect and we will not be. But anyway, so I'm working on that song.
That's good.
One of the reasons, and since we're talking about reasons behind it, one of the reasons, the way we do the way that the Shema is done, Sue does it a little differently than I do. I cover my eyes for the second half. Can you explain why we cover our eyes?
Just because when you're coming into God's presence, His Shekinah or glory is bright, and so you come in reverence for His glory.
Okay. And the second line is usually done softer. Do you know why? The first line is Torah. It's God's direct word. It's God's direct word. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The second line is the people's response. It's not Torah. It's not God's direct word. It is part of that oral tradition. So out of humility, because we've inserted this line in God's word, we humble ourselves before God, and we close our eyes or we cover our eyes, and we say it softer. Because it's our response to Him. And imagine, we see God, we're going to be so awed. And then when we get to this one, we do the Ve'ahavta, and I have a really fun version of it we're going to learn after the first of the year, that's a more upbeat and, yeah. and we're going to learn that one, not necessarily for this time frame, but for other times too. The reason we usually pause between the last line of the Ve'ahavta and the first line out of Leviticus has to do with the fact that the one is in this portion and the other is in this portion. And there is a separation. There's the first commandment. It is priority. It is first. The second commandment is like it. And so it follows. But we usually pause. That's why we do the things we do. And we usually read the whole of Torah. So let's go ahead and read. How's that? Oh, okay. Like I'm hearing something.
It's this though.
It's singing.
It sings. I know. It sounds like music.
It has a sound that's like a shofar too.
Huh. Does it wake you up?
It's singing with us.
No.
Do you have the list still?
It's
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Sue's reading the first one,
Oh, I am.
but we'll just
Okay.
hand it around to the different
There we
people.
go. Okay.
And say out loud where you're.
Okay, I'm reading Genesis, starting in chapter 32, verse 3.
Genesis 32:3.
And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, instructing him, Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male servants and female servants. I have sent to tell my lord in order that I may find favor in your sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him, and the flocks and herds and camels into two camps, thinking, If Esau comes to one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may give you good. I am not worthy of the least of the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good, and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So he stayed there that night, and from what he had with him he took a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. These he handed over to his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, pass on ahead of me and put a space between drove and drove. He instructed the first, when Esau my brother meets you and asks you, to whom do you belong, where are you going, and whose are these ahead of you, then you shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a present sent to my lord Esau, and moreover he is behind us. He likewise instructed the second and the third, and all who followed the droves. You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, moreover your servant Jacob is behind us. For he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me, and afterward I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on ahead of him, and he himself stayed that night in the camp. The same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the day has broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. The sun rose upon him as he passed, Peniel limping because of his hip. Therefore to this day the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh.
Okay, question, why would they put in this translation unless Hebrew is completely different?
I'm sorry, what?
Why would they put in these translations unless the Hebrew is completely different, wrestling with the man?
I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Now we
I'm
have.
gonna talk about
And
that.
do we drink both,
I'm gonna talk about that.
I went too far.
I just sent her the link. That was what I was doing on my
Okay,
phone.
so
She asked for a link
that's
to the
okay. That's a nice
service
link.
because she hadn't found us yet, so I sent her a link.
So I'll start in
Check.
33, and then I'll just do 1 through 11.
Okay.
And Jacob lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel, and the 2 female servants, and he put the servants with their children in front. Then Leah with her children, and Rachel and Joseph last of all. He himself went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And when Esau lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children, he said, who are these with you? Jacob said, the children whom God has given graciously to your servant. Then the servants drew near, and they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near, and bowed down. And last Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company that I met?" Jacob answered, "To find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Jacob said, "No, please. If I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand. For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me. Please accept my blessing, that is, brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." Thus he urged him, and he took it. And then back to Sue.
Oh, I'll try to remember it this time. 12, 20, 33, 12, 3, 20. Then Esau said, "Let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. If they are driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. My Lord, pass on ahead of his servant, and I will lead on slowly at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me, and at the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir." So Esau said, "Let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, but Jacob journeyed on to Sukkot, and built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Sukkot. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, on his way from Padan Aram, and he camped before the city. And from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money the piece of land on which he had very small print. The pages are stuck.
2 pages.
There. On which he had pitched his tent. There he erected an altar and called it El Elohi Israel.
And Dinah, the daughter of Leah,
Okay, this is the portion I'm not gonna really talk about today, but we wanna hear about it, and, I do have a couple of short statements about it later. Go ahead, Dinah's done.
and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hittite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her, and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter, and now his sons were with his cattle in the field. And Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field, and when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in living with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor commanded with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter, and I pray you give him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you, and ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he hath defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your children to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of the city, saying, these men are peaceful with us, therefore let them dwell in the land and trade therein, and the land for the land. Behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is be circumcised, as they are circumcised. Shall not the cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, and all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, the two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and they slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, and their oxen, and their asses, and which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all the wealth, and all the little ones, their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me, and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, and I and my house. And they said, should he dwell with our sister as with an harlot?
It's Jamie.
That is a change.
The thing that fell out of my hand.
Genesis 35, 1 to 21. Then God said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods that are among you, purify yourselves, and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which were in their hands, and the earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were all around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And he built an altar there, and called the place El Bethel, because there God appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Alon Bakuth. Then God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Paddan Aram and blessed him. And God said to him, Your name is Jacob. Your name shall not be called Jacob anymore, but Israel shall be your name. So he called his name Israel. Also God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall proceed from you, and kings shall come from your body. The land which I gave Abraham and Isaac I give to you, and to your descendants after you I give this land. Then God went up from him in the place where he talked with him. So Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, a pillar of stone, and he poured drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spoke with him Bethel. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel labored in childbirth, and she had hard labor. Now it came to pass, when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, Do not fear, you will have this son also. And so it was, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar on her grave, which is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel journeyed and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eber.
One, two, three, six. And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in the land, that Reuben went and laid with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. And now the sons of Jacob were 12, the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun, the sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin, and the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaiden, Dan, and Naphtali, and the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad, and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Pandaram. And Jacob came unto Isaac his father, unto Mamre, unto the city of Arab, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered into his people, being old and full of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Now there are generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Ada, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zebcom, the Hivite, and Bashemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nabjath, and Ada bare Esau Elipaz, and Bashemeth, Baruel, and Holibah, Ber Jerush, and Jahalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the persons of the house, and his cattle, and all his beasts, and all his substance, which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob, where the riches were more than they might dwell together, and the land there wherein there were strangers that could not bear them because of the cattle. And thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in the Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons. Elizpas, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau. Ruel, the son of Bashemeth, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Elipaz and Timaim, Omar, Zepho, Zepho, and Gatam, and Kenaz, and Timnah, the concubine of Elipaz and Esau's son, and he bare Elipaz and Amalek. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife, and these are the sons of Ruel, and Nahath, and Zerah, and Shema, and Missa. These were the sons of Bashemeth and Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Eloholibamah, the daughter of Anha, and the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife, and they bare Esau Jerush, and Jael, and Korah. And these were the dukes of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eli. Elipaz, the firstborn, not a son of Esau, Duke Timon, and Duke Omar, and Duke Zapah, Duke Kenaz, Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, and Duke Amalek, and these are the dukes that came out of Elipaz, the land of Edom. These were the sons of Edom. And these are the sons of Ruel, Esau's son, Duke Nahath, the Duke Zair, the Duke Shema, the Duke Missa, and these are the dukes that came out of Ruel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Bashemeth, Esau's wife, and these are the sons of Elihibamath, Esau's wife, and the Duke Jerush, and Duke Jalam, and Duke Korah. These were the dukes that came out of Elihibamah, the daughter of Anna, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are the dukes. And these are the sons of Seir Horite, and who inhabited the land, Lotan, and Shobal, and Zibeon, and Anha, and the Diashan, and Ezar, and Diashan, and these are the dukes of the Horites, the children of Zeir in the land of Edom, and the children of Lotan, and Horai, and Heman, and the Lotan's sister was Timea. And the children of Zobar were Avalon, and Manahath, and Eliphalet.
I'm sorry.
Read this before you go to bed. Oh, man.
It works that way quite well, actually.
These are the children of Ziba, the Alabama, and Lazanava, that found the mules in the wilderness and fled asses of Zeban, his father, and the children of Anna, Am I still going? Did I finish?
You
What am I
did
going
fine.
to?
You did fine.
36,
I'm just gonna go to verse 40
but
now.
that's okay.
36?
I'll go ahead and go to verse 40 and we'll conclude this section with that. I'll read that part,
Skip to
okay?
40?
Yeah, skip to 40.
Okay.
There's still some names
Wow.
there, but
I honestly
these,
didn't know that one. Put your
But-
name on that one.
But they repeated it like 3 times.
I know,
I know,
they
it's like over
repeat
and
it.
over.
Yours, his translation uses the word dukes, mine uses chiefs.
Chief, yeah.
Yeah. the
And
one
then
the same.
kings.
Yeah.
So some are kings, some
Yeah.
are chiefs.
Mine doesn't use anything. It just
And that-
uses the names.
Oh, I've got a commentary after we get done with this.
Yeah. Go ahead with verse 40,
And these
please.
are the names of the dukes that come to Esau according to the families after the places, and the names Duke Timon, Duke Abi, and Duke Jas, Duke Allah Payab Mabeth, I don't know if I got it right, Duke Elam, Ella, and Duke Pion, and Duke Kenaz, and Duke Timon, and Duke Mizpah, Duke Magdiel, and Duke Iram, and these are the dukes of Edom, according to their inhabitants in the land of their possession. He is Esau, the father of the Edomites.
All right.
The Dukes.
Good job, Dennis.
Where's the Duke of Earl? He's not in
He's
here.
not in there, he should be.
Duke of Earl. Sorry.
You said you wanted to say something
Well,
real quick?
I write about this and how the New World Order, dukes of our day, come from, is my studies.
Come from the same
that
place.
Come from the dukes, the chiefs, and so forth of Esau. Okay,
Yeah.
so Edomites and today the same lineage comes down line. That's why they give themselves the same titles, because they're
Ah.
of this lineage. And I put that in my writing.
Well, the
Dukes.
Duke is more of an more of a
Right.
British
British.
type of
Yes,
title.
it is. But
The
chiefs,
European titles, and so I'd have to look in the Hebrew to
Mhm,
see what the titles are given there, but most of the places I've read it's translated chief or it's translated,
Yeah, mine says chief,
Leader.
but it doesn't say it after each one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that one
Most-
says
most
Duke,
don't.
Duke.
Mine says chief this, chief this, chief this,
Yeah.
chief this.
Yours says
So
chief.
now let's go on to the Haftarah. We've got 2 Haftarah portions this time, which surprised
When we
me.
say half, we say half because of what?
The Haftarah, it's read in
Haftarah.
addition to the Torah.
Yeah, okay.
It's not half.
Okay,
It's Haftarah.
okay. in
It's
addition
a
to-
Hebrew word and it means in addition to.
Okay.
In addition to the Torah.
Jamie, that's you, Hosea 11:7 through 12:12.
Okay.
Say 11. 7.
Found Hosea.
Yeah.
Yay!
This isn't my
I
usual
can't even,
Bible.
I know, I
Hosea's a
can't
very
even
interesting book to
read
read.
this Bible, it's so small.
I'm just trying to be mindful of the time here for Sue's sake and for Shelley's sake.
Say 11 what?
Probably when the readings are over, I'm gonna have to go, so.
11 what, Sue?
11:7 through 12:12.
My
It's-
people are bent on backsliding from me. Though they call to the Most High, none at all exalt him. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I make you like Admah? How can I set you like Zeboim? My heart churns within me, my sympathy is stirred. I will not execute the fierceness of my anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim. For I am God and not man, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come with terror. They shall walk after the Lord, he will roar like a lion. When he roars, then his son shall come, trembling from the west. They shall come trembling like a bird from Egypt, like a dove from the land of Assyria. And I will let them dwell in their houses, says the Lord. Ephraim has encircled me with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Judah still walks with God, even with the Holy One who is faithful. Ephraim feeds on the wind and pursues the east wind. He daily increases lies and desolation. Also they make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried to Egypt. The Lord also brings a charge against Judah, and will punish Jacob according to his ways. According to his deeds he will recompense him. He took his brother by the heel in the wound, and in his strength he struggled with God. Yes, he struggled with the angel and prevailed. He wept and sought favor from him. We found him in Bethel, and there he spoke to us. That is the Lord God of hosts. The Lord is his memorable name. So you, by the help of your God, return. Observe mercy and justice, and wait on your God continually. A cunning Canaanite, deceitful scales are in his hand. He loves to oppress, and Ephraim said, surely I have become rich. I have found wealth for myself in all my labors. They shall find me in no iniquity that is sin. But I am the Lord your God, ever since the land of Egypt. I will again make you dwell in tents, and as in the days of the appointed feast. I have also spoken by the prophets, and have multiplied visions. I have given symbols through the witness of the prophets. Though Gilead has idols, surely they are vanity. Though they sacrifice bulls in Gilgal, indeed their altars shall be heaps in the furrows of the field.
Thank you. And now we have
Chris.
Chris is going to read out of Obadiah. And by the way, she gets to read the whole book.
Yep, the whole book.
The whole book of
whole
Obadiah.
chapter.
I know, I had to look it
It's all
up
one
because I was like,
chapter.
I know the general area, and it would not open to that one page that was Obadiah. So it's like, I
This
had
is
to look at what page it was
and
on.
listen for the references to things that we were reading about.
Okay. The vision of Obadiah. Edom will be humbled. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Rise up, let us rise against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, and you who live in the clefts of the rock. In your lofty dwelling, you say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soar aloft like an eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I shall bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves come to you, if plunderers came by night, how you have been destroyed. Would they not steal only enough for themselves? If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleanings? How Esau has been pillaged, his treasures sought out. All your allies have driven you to your border. Those at peace with you have deceived you. They have prevailed against you. Those who eat your bread have set a trap beneath you. You have no understanding. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of Mount Esau? And your mighty men shall be dismayed, O Teman, so that every man from Mount Esau will be cut off by slaughter. Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth, and foreigners entered his gates, and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like the one of them. But do not gloat over the day of your brother, in the day of his misfortune. Do not rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin. Do not boast in the day of distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Do not gloat over his disaster in the day of his calamity. Do not loot his wealth in the day of his calamity. Do not stand on the crossroads to cut off his fugitives. Do not hand over his survivors in the day of his distress. In the day of the Lord is near upon all, or for the day of the Lord is near upon all nations. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. For as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so all the nations shall drink continually. They shall drink and swallow. It shall be as though they had never been. But in Mount Zion there shall be those who escape, and it shall be holy. And the house of Jacob shall possess their own possessions. The house of Jacob shall be a fire, the house of Joseph a flame, the house of Esau stubble. They shall burn them and consume them, and there shall be no survivor for the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken. Those of the Negev shall possess Mount Esau, and those of Shephelah shall possess the land of the Philistines. They shall possess the land of Ephraim, and the land of Samaria, and Benjamin shall possess Gilead. The exiles of the host of the people of Israel shall possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath. The exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad shall possess the cities of the Negev. Survivors shall go up to Mount Zion to rule Mount Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's.
Heavy duty. That's very prophetic. I saw about 20 things from where we are.
Yeah.
The people, you know, we talk about,
Absolutely.
you know, the rocks cry out, you know, they're in the caves, the underground cities, the skies, Elon Musk, what he's doing for things, and then the judgment of all of Esau's lineage, and the Edomites, and
we're
then
gonna
the
talk about the
restoration
riot,
in Jerusalem, and I mean, it was just like a whole big picture of
beautiful.
end time where we're heading.
We're heading there.
And the restoration, and the Jews that will come out and become one with Messiah. It's just a
Absolutely.
lot of parts. It's heavy.
It'll be beautiful.
Yeah.
Matthew 2:13 through 23.
Bob.
Rob is reading that, right?
Okay, after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph and said, Herod will be looking for the child in order to kill him. So get up, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you to leave. Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and left during the night for Egypt, where he stayed until Herod died. This was done to make come true what the Lord had said through the prophet. I called my son out of Egypt. When Herod realized that the visitors from the east had tricked him, he was furious. He gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its neighborhood who were 2 years old and younger. This was done in accordance with what he had learned from the visitors about the time when the star had appeared. In this way, what the prophet Jeremiah had said came true. A sound is heard in Ramah, the sound of bitter weeping. Rachel is crying for her children, and she refuses to be comforted, for they are dead. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, Get up, take the child and his mother, and go back to the land of Israel, because those who tried to kill the child are dead. So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went back to Israel. But when Joseph heard that Archelaus had succeeded his father Herod as king of Judea, he was afraid to go there. He was given more instructions in a dream, so he went to the province of Galilee and made his home in a town named Nazareth. And so what the prophets had said came true. He will be called a Nazarene.
I want to do one more song. It's number 36 in the books. Give us clean hands and pure heart. And I know Sue needs to be going because she's got an engagement. Shelley has an engagement she has to be at. So she left me written instructions as to how to turn off the machine. Very detailed, I am sure, just like your father would do. Oh yeah, you should see the book he left me on some things anyway. But I've been able to figure it out. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Spirit, come, make us humble. Turn our eyes from evil things. Lord, we cast down our idols. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Come again. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Spirit, come, make us humble. Turn our eyes from evil things. Lord, we cast down our idols. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. But let us be a generation that seeks your face, O God of Jacob. But let us be a generation that seeks your face, O God of Jacob. So give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Spirit, come, make us humble. Father, I ask as we look at your word today that you would remind us and help us to be humble in the learning and the recognition that there are so many different ways of seeing some things. Lord, help us recognize what message you have for us for today. And help it be clear. In the name of Yeshua, amen. Thank you. That will make it a little easier. Am I totally blocked by it? No, I'm not. Yay. Because I have notes and I want to be able to follow them, right? What?
Chris is playing charades.
She's playing charades?
I need to go do something.
Okay. Got it.
Did you make a mess in there?
No. Just playing charades.
Just playing charades, I love it. I'm gonna need another thing of water though. While you're there. Thank you.
What'd you do?
I've been working really hard at drinking a whole lot more water.
I did charades to tell
Lord is-
Jamie we needed toilet paper.
Yeah, well, we're still online, so.
It was funny.
She was trying not to interrupt the song.
Well, and that's one thing I was gonna go back and do and didn't because I hadn't wanted to go do the driveway.
Okay. I'm going to take us to a passage that starts before. That just want to remind us of part of what's going on here. Part of what needs to be going on here. In our prayer section that we read, get where I can read it. Okay. We have Jacob having the dream. There's this place of where he sees the angelic coming and going. He sees God at the top. Okay. And it says he woke up from his sleep and he said, undoubtedly Adonai's in this place. This is Genesis 28, verse 17. So he was afraid and said, how fearsome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This must be the gate of heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob got up and he took the stone which he had placed his head, set it as a memorial stone, and he poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, although originally the city's name was Luz. Then Jacob made a vow. This vow is important. Jacob made a vow. If God will be with me and watch over me on the way that I am going, provide me food to eat and clothes to wear, and I return in peace to my father's house, then Adonai will be my God. So this stone, which I set up as a memorial stone, will become God's house. And of everything you've provided me, I will definitely give a tenth of it to you. He's making a vow. And vows are important. We need to understand that. When we make a vow, we have to keep it. Because if we don't, something will be required of us in the payment for that vow. I know that sounds kind of funny. It's not a Christian concept necessarily, but it is a biblical concept. It's part of why Yeshua said, don't make vows. Don't swear by this, don't swear by that, don't swear by the other thing. Because we are held by our words. We are held by the vows that we make. And it's important to recognize when you make a vow that we need to fulfill it. I made a vow when I was 16 at Bible camp. And I will never forget the vow. The end of the week of camp, we would all go up to this big fireplace, and you get to pull out a pine cone or a piece of wood to put in the fireplace, and you'd give a testimony or whatever. That year, God had spoken strongly to me about music and about my voice and about singing and what I needed to do with it and not do with it. So I stood there with this pine cone in my hand, and I said, I promise the Lord from here on out I will not sing songs that will bring dishonor to him. I will never do music that will bring dishonor to my God. And I put that in the fire, and that was my vow, and you know what? God has held me to it. When I was a young adult, with children at home already, and no longer living in my family environment, no longer with the type of church group around that I'd been used to, no longer had some of the support, I had a dear friend that invited me to go do some other things that weren't necessarily godly. And there was a band that we liked to listen to that was missing a singer. So I went to audition. I got laryngitis. There was no medical reason for it. I went to the doctor. My voice, I figured I just had allergies or something. Waited a couple weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I still had laryngitis. It wasn't going away. I go to the doctor. He's looking at it going, I don't know why you have laryngitis. There's no medical reason that I can see. I need to send you to an ear, nose, and throat specialist. Went to the ear, nose, and throat specialist. They couldn't find anything. They sent me back to my general practice doctor, who by this time had prayed about it. I had a wonderful general practice doctor who was charismatic Catholic. And that sounds kind of funny, but he loved the Lord with everything he had. He prayed for his patients. He prayed about his patients. If we wanted him, he would pray with us. I went back to him and he looked at me and he goes, I don't know what it is physically, but you made a vow and you're being held to it. That's what the Lord told me. Oh. So when I came back to the Lord, the first thing I asked was, can I have my voice back? And that is one of the gifts he gave me back, was my voice, to sing. But I learned a very strong lesson. If you make a vow to God, he will help you keep it. He will do what he needs to do to help you keep it. We're going to see that play out in this next passage. What was his vow? Real quick, what did he vow? He was going to do what? If he gets to come back and he's safe,
He's going to make him his God.
he's going to make a tabernacle. He's going to make a house for God. He's going to put a place of worship. He's going to go back to Bethel, or Bethel. He says, if you will let me come back to my father's house in peace, I will go back to Bethel, and I will make an altar for you. What does it take when there's been a big rift in the family, and there's anger, and people are upset? What does it take to come back in peace? It takes a process of reconciliation. Now, he has said, if I come back in peace, I'm going to come and I'm going to make an offering to you. I want to read something that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, beginning in verse 21. You've heard it said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever commits murder shall be subject to judgment. But I tell you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be subject to judgment. Whoever says to his brother, Racha, shall be subject to the council. Basically, that's a word that means idiot. When you call people idiots, watch out. Fool, idiot, right? And I don't know about you, but there have been a few times I've let that word come out of my mouth, especially in traffic on the snow, and people going past you really fast, and you're going, idiot, you're going to crash, right? Father, forgive me. We don't need to be calling people those names, because that is subject to judgment.
How about moron or something?
Yeah, well, it's the same meaning.
Can I tell you that?
What if he called the elites?
Whoever says you fool is subject to Gehenna. In other words, subject to a fiery punishment. Therefore, if you are presenting your offering upon the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your offering there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and present your offering. Jacob is going back to the land. He's going back totally blessed, totally filled with every part of the blessing, almost, that was given to him, that he, through deception, received from his father. The blessing his father had intended for Esau that went on to Jacob, he has had every bit of it fulfilled except one part. The only part that has not been fulfilled is where it says, your brother will serve you. He's got the land. It's coming back to it. He's got the wealth. He's got the family. He is returning to the land fully blessed by God with the fulfillment of the blessing that he had deceived his father to get. He's preparing to meet the brother who wanted to kill him. So he does some things, right? In order for him to return, he first has to reconcile with his brother. So how do we do that? Well, he begins by sending a messenger. That word in the Hebrew, by the way, where it says he sends messengers ahead of himself, ahead, Wrong chapter. That word in the Hebrew is malach, which means angel. The word messenger in English, angel, means messenger. Anytime we have a word translated angel into English, it means messenger. Except that sometimes it's a messenger from a king. Sometimes it's a messenger from one person to another. Sometimes, and most of the time when we have it translated angel, it's a messenger from God. The rabbis argue when Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau and told them, "Say this to my Lord," to Esau. What's that doing? Where's that putting Jacob? Is that under Esau? Instead of claiming that last little bit of the blessing that he doesn't have, instead of saying, go to my brother Esau and tell him I'm coming and he better be ready to bow down. He doesn't say that. He says, to my Lord, to Esau. This is what your servant Jacob says. I've been staying with Laban and have lingered until now, and now I've come to possess oxen and donkeys and flocks and male servants and female servants. I sent word to tell you, my Lord, in order to find favor in your eyes. He is insisting on a respect to be given to his brother. Why? Because he wronged his brother. Now, he did not wrong him in terms of the birthright. That was a legitimate sale. But as far as the blessing goes, he recognizes he did something that Esau sees as definitely wrong. He wronged him, he stole it. That's what Esau sees. So he's going back, sends messengers, and he pays attention to the report that comes back. Whether these were angels or human messengers, the rabbis argue, and argue, and argue.
It's like the ones in
They go to the
Revelation.
Hebrew, and you
Argue
can
and
say
argue.
either way. Whether these were angels, but my question is, they went and came back pretty quickly. How quick do people travel? Sometimes, right? Could they have just run? Yes, it's possible. Messengers in those days ran between cities. That was their job. That was what they did. Human messengers. The messengers come back. Yeah? Really fast. They'd have to. The messengers come back and say, oh yeah, Esau's going to come and meet you. Esau's on his way, and he's got 400 men. So Jacob takes the message seriously. He hears it, pays attention to it. He is afraid, so he immediately takes action to protect that which God has given him. Just in case. In case Esau does not forgive him, he is prepared. When we go to make reconciliation with people, we give them a heads up we're coming, or not. Be prepared in case they don't receive it. Because sometimes when we go to make reconciliation with someone, when we go to someone we have wronged, they don't want to receive it. They don't want. Some of that, though, is on us and in how we approach it. But some of that is just flat out they're not willing to forgive. We are still required to do the process to see if we can make it right. Jesus said so. Go and make it right with your brother. Paul says, as much as is possible with you, be at peace with all men. That doesn't mean we'll always be at peace with all men. That means as much as it's possible with me. That means first I have to deal with some stuff in me. Because usually, if someone thinks I've wronged them, or if I have wronged someone, I think I have a reason to do so. Right? We are really good at justifying things. I'm really good, honestly, at justifying why I have done certain things with certain people. I'm really good at thinking to myself, well now if they had just not misinterpreted that, right? But the reality is, if my brother has something against me, I'm supposed to go to them. Seek reconciliation. Jacob begins by taking preparation in case he doesn't receive it, separating the camps up. Then the next thing he does is pray. He did the logical thing first. I don't know about you, but when I know that I've got something I can do for something, I'll just do it. I don't always ask God. I just do it. But now he prays, and he says, God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Adonai, who said to me, return to your land and your relatives, and I will do good with you. I am unworthy of all the proofs of mercy and of all the dependability you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I've become two camps. There's enough there to separate into two groups. He's got a lot. He's wealthy. Deliver me, please, from my brother's hand, from Esau's hand, for I am afraid of him, that he will come and strike me, the mothers with the children. And you yourself said, I will most certainly do good with you, and I will make your seed like the sand of the sea, that cannot be counted because of its abundance. So now he's praying, and he's reminding God of God's promise. He's afraid, but he's still reminding God of God's promises. God, you said. God, you said. God, you said. That's my biggest prayer sometimes. God, you said. I'm going to stand on what you said, even if I don't see it. Esau's on his way with 400 men. Why would he be coming with 400 men if it wasn't to wipe him out, right? Why would he bring an army with him?
To show off.
To show off. Well, yeah, but Jacob doesn't think about that.
Covers butt.
Covers butt, just in case Jacob's coming to kill him, right? You think like a brother. I don't know, I'm going to go meet him. But Jacob is sure he's coming to kill him. And yet, God, you made this promise. You said I would prosper. You said my descendants, for the descendants to prosper, that means they have to survive this.
Just like Job, though they slay me, yet I will trust you.
Though he slay me.
Kind of that vibe.
And I try to be careful of that phrase now, because I've lived too many times through a process of having to really recognize, you know what? God, I choose to trust you no matter what. I choose to trust you no matter what. And sometimes we don't feel like we can trust him.
Yeah.
I follow a young man, he's a little younger than I am, not much. His name is Mark Stannart. He lives in the Lebanon area. And he writes about the Psalms, countable Psalms. And he's writing right now about this process he's been going through where he's been filled with anxiety and fear, and there's things going on that have created that. This is not something he's used to. He's not had this problem before. This is different for him. And how he's responded. And then he says, draw near to God? You mean pray? You might as well be speaking calculus. They're words to me. I don't understand what they mean. Psalm 73 says, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Wait a minute, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart? If God is the strength of my heart, would my flesh and my heart be failing? Yes, because sometimes we have to fail to let him be the strength. Our emotional status is not what defines our relationship with God. It's God's presence itself. God's presence defines the relationship. And God is there whether we feel him or not. It's not how close I feel to him. It's how he continually draws me to himself. Why, it isn't my faith at all. It's his. The settled reality that God is my refuge, that he is my strength and my portion, is not a condition based on my emotional security. The psalmist says, my heart and my flesh may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. So in these times of fear, in these times of anxiety, we turn to God, that is exactly what Jacob does. We turn to God's promises, and we remind him of them, and remind ourselves of them sometimes. It says he stayed overnight there. Then from everything that came into his possession, he makes an offering to send to Esau. I looked up that word offering, and it's the same word that is used for what's called an olah offering, or a, let me see if I can find where I wrote that part. Because it's an interesting phrase to say, but he makes an olah offering. He's making a offering of settlement, or an offering of reconciliation, an offering of restitution. Offering of restitution. It's a peace offering. That's the word I was looking for. He uses the word, they use the word here that means a peace offering. He is literally making a peace offering to his brother. And what he's doing is he's taking of those things that were the blessing, that he has reaped the benefits of, and he's taking a part out and he's sending it to his brother, one part at a time, with space between them. And again, the message: when my brother Esau meets you and asks you, saying, to who do you belong and where are you going, and who do all these things belong to, basically, English translation, Elizabeth version, right? Then you're to say to your servant Jacob, we belong to your servant Jacob, and this is an offering sent to my Lord, to Esau, and he is coming behind us. Each one, the first one, the second one, the third one, and to all those who are going behind the flocks, say the same thing. Look, your servant Jacob is behind us. And he says to himself, I will appease him with the offering, the peace offering that goes ahead of me, and afterwards I will see his face, and perhaps he'll lift up my face. So the offering passed over ahead of him while he spent that night in camp. He spends the night in prayer. He gets up, he sends all that stuff out. He starts getting them off a couple hours apart. And that night, he stays in camp. He gets up that night. Now, during the middle of the night, I don't know when this happened, but it says he got up that night, and he took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons. Notice they're not 4 wives. They're not 4 wives. Leah and Rachel are the wives. The others are still servants. They never become wives. And he crosses over the ford of the Jabbok with them, and he takes them and he sends them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. And then it says Jacob remained by himself. So he prayed, he prepared the gifts, he's making restitution. You know, when we steal something, we have to pay it back. If we take something from someone, we're supposed to pay it back. It doesn't do any good to go say, oh, I'm sorry, I stole that from you. If we can't, or we won't, or we refuse to make it right by paying it back through work, through money, through returning the item, whatever it is, we're supposed to pay it back. And in fact, in Torah, you pay it back with interest. And each type of theft requires a different level of interest. But we pay back. He's making restitution to his brother. He is paying back to his brother what had been stolen in Esau's eyes. It's necessary. We cannot reconcile with someone if we're not willing to pay back what has been stolen. Sometimes what has been stolen is something you can't really pay it back. When we talk bad about other people, to other people, there's no way to pay that back in full, which is part of why God says we need to be very careful about our words, especially related to other people. There's no way to pay that back. If you destroy someone's reputation, you can't restore that reputation. So that requires an even deeper level of humility. It says he made the offering the restitution, and then he stays by himself. And it says, and this is what you were asking about earlier, Jacob remained by himself. Then a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. And you asked me, why does it say man? Because the Hebrew word is ish, which means man.
Instead of messenger.
Huh?
Instead of messenger like an angel.
Instead of messenger like an angel, it uses the word ish, a man. Now, this man wrestles with him until dawn. This man is strong enough to knock his socket, knock his leg, his hip, the socket out. Have you ever had your hip pulled out of the socket? I did during birth once, when I was giving birth to one of my daughters. Yeah, that was not a pleasant experience, but the doctor saw it and knew what it was, and he had been an osteopath, and he adjusted it real fast and got it back in. That hurt too, but it felt a lot better fairly quickly. Getting that joint knocked out can actually cause a permanent limp fairly easily. It's painful, but even by knocking the hip out, even by doing that, Jacob is still holding on to this man. The rabbis really, really argued over who this was, what this was. Because the Hebrew says ish. In one place we're told he wrestled with an angel. We read that in the Haftarah portion, right? He wrestles with an angel. Another place we're told he wrestles with God. And won. He held on. He held on. He held on. He wrestled. Who did he wrestle with? Some rabbis think, because it says in Ish, that he wrestled with the spirit of Esau. That Esau, yeah, the spirit of Esau wrestled with the spirit of Jacob. Which is plausible.
Yeah.
Okay? Esau's spirit has come to him in the middle of the night, ahead of time, and then they're wrestling. Which makes it especially interesting when he says, not going to let go until you give me a blessing. If it's Esau, especially. Some say it is an angel. Well, you know there's different types of angels, right?
Yeah.
Lots of different types of angels. There are messenger angels, absolutely. There are angels that are just messengers. They're there to bring messages. There are angels,
Ministering angels, warring angels.
ministering angel, warring angel. What else?
Angels of destruction.
Death angel.
Angel.
The death angel. There are angels that are sent with messages. There are angels that are sent to punish or bring judgment. There are angels that are sent for all kinds of purposes. If this is an angel, what was his purpose? Why would he have to wrestle with Jacob? And why would why would he continue to hold on?
For a blessing.
For a blessing. He wants a blessing. He's holding on for a blessing. He's fighting for the blessing. And he is wrestling with an angel. He's wrestling with the spirit of a man.
Yeah, so it makes sense.
The spirit of a man.
Esau.
Ish. But there's another aspect of it. In one place it says he wrestled with the angel of the Lord. Who is the angel of the Lord? The messenger. The main messenger of God. Some think it's a pre-incarnate Yeshua. Pre-incarnate Jesus. The angel. He is the Son of God. Angels are also referred to as sons of God. Lowercase son.
That B'nai Elohim.
B'nai Elohim. We are also referred to as sons of daughters of sons of God.
Right.
So the angel would have been Yeshua. So is he arguing and is he wrestling with Esau? Is he wrestling with the spirit of the Messiah to come? Who is the Son of Man, which is why it would have been Ish. That's what some of the Messianic rabbis say. Or is he actually wrestling with his own spirit?
Self. Yep. That's true.
I'm not sure. I think in some ways he's wrestling with himself. We often, when we find ourselves in a place where we are having to face something we have done, where someone has been seriously hurt or offended, we often have to wrestle with
It
ourselves.
says there is therefore no condemnation for those who walk in the Ruach instead of the flesh. So if he deceived his brother, he was walking in the flesh. So the condemnation he was viewing was the wrestling of his soul.
We often wrestle with ourselves. One of the things that, as I was listening to this, I listened to this every night this last week, and I listened to it during the day a couple times while I was doing things, and it, one of those things that, you know, every once in a while something just kind of jumps at you. He wrestles with what he thinks is there to kill him until he survives the dark night, and he asks for a blessing. If we will wrestle through our problems, we are blessed. We can have a blessing. That which comes to kill us, we can look back later and see as a blessing. Now that's an important thing to me right now. That which comes to kill can be a blessing, but we have to wrestle through it. And he wrestles through it. Some think he was wrestling with God himself, because it says he saw God, and because God changes his name. Who can change his name but God? And the blessing that this Ish gives him is the new name of Israel. He wants to make reconciliation with his brother. First, he has to wrestle with himself. First, he has to begin the process. But he has to reconcile with himself, too.
He wrestled with himself, but he also denied himself when he said he humbled himself and called his brother, saying to his brother, I'm your servant.
And
so
humility
he denied himself.
Is the next thing on my list. If we want reconciliation, when we seek reconciliation, we need to do restitution, but we need to come in humility. When he limps to his brother, because he had a limp the rest of his life, that Ish didn't just knock it out of joint, he damaged it. He limps the rest of his life. So now here we have this strong man limping to meet his brother. That, I think, is part of the softening of Esau. Here's a man who's coming back. He has the blessing, but he's giving it back to me. He's paying me back. Look, he's paying me back. He's responding to me and referring to me as Lord. He's calling himself my servant. He's limping. Wow. And this is my brother. However we have to work it, we come out. He came out of this with a humility he didn't fully have before. When we come to make restitution, it isn't about us. When I want to reconcile with someone, it's not about me. And it shouldn't be about me. It's not about me winning my brother back. It's about my brother being restored. If we are making restitution with humility, with peace offering, then we have a different response from the other person. There's no, I read a really interesting article, I thought. It's not an apology if you use the word but, or if you put it on the other person. I'm really sorry you thought that's what I said. What? I'm sorry you thought. Anytime in the restitution process, the reconciliation process, we put the responsibility for everything on the other person, we're not going to have it work. We have to be willing to stay humble. Fun getting up, huh?
She's playing charades again.
Push.
Push, push. Jacob then meets his brother Esau, and we're going to skip something in a bit, but right now, when Jacob meets Esau, he's met him with restitution. He's meeting with him with humility. He comes up to him, and he bows 7 times. 7 is the perfect number. It has a meaning to it. He bows 7 times before his brother. And Esau sees him coming. And as he's coming, he's bowing. 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps. 7 times he bows. Esau sees him coming, and it says Esau ran and hugged him and fell on his neck and kissed him. And by the way, each of those things refers to a part of what Jacob used to deceive his father. The neck, all of that stuff, the kiss, all of that's in the deception of the blessing. So there's not a detail God misses. Not a detail. And he says, and who are these with you? As he looks and he sees the women and the children, and they're all divided up. And I want you to hear how they're divided. Then the female servants approached, they and their children. Then Leah approached with her children, and they bowed down. They bowed down. Finally, Joseph and Rachel approach and bow down. His descendants are now bowing to his brother. Humility, humility, humility. In order for reconciliation to take place, we need divine strategy. We need wisdom. He did all of these things. He sought God's divine strategy. He sought wisdom. He divided the camp. He sent messages ahead. He made restitution to the best that he could at that point. And he argues with his brother about whether or not to receive it. He gives back as best he can that's which he stole. He doesn't say, I didn't mean to. He doesn't say, but you didn't deserve it. None of that. And a lot of times we try to do that when we try to reconcile with people. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry. Now we put the blame on them. When really what we should say is, I'm sorry that I hurt you. Without putting more blame elsewhere. We have to wrestle with ourselves until we see our role in it. And we recognize our role in it. Because if we don't, then we're not making restitution. We're just placating someone. That's where I think he wrestled with himself all night long. Mm-hmm. There have been times I've had to really wrestle with myself. What was my role in that? What was my role in that? In doing all of this, Jacob, by doing these things, relieves himself of fear, relieves himself of guilt. But something else gets released. Someone else gets released. Do you remember that blessing that was said to him? The father said over his brother? Genesis 27:10. When Isaac actually blesses his other son. It's not 27:10. I wrote it down wrong. It's 27:39. It says, behold, away from the land's fatness shall your dwelling be. Away from the dew of the sky above, but your sword, by your sword you shall live, and your brother shall you serve. But when you tear yourself loose, you will tear his yoke off your neck. By coming and reconciling himself with his brother Esau, he not only gets rid of his own fear and guilt, but he also releases Esau as well. You know, we often see Esau as the bad guy, and we stick with him as the bad guy. But Esau had a perception of being wronged, and Esau was wronged. By coming in humility, by doing all of these things, he makes it right with his brother. And he sets his brother free, too. He himself is set free, and his brother is set free. Can we always make restitution? Can we always reconcile? Always.
As
No.
much as possible, be at peace with all
As
men.
much as is possible. And sometimes it's going to cause more hurt for you to go to the other person. There are times for that. In the AA movement, the Alcoholics Anonymous movement, in the 12-step program, there is a step of reconciling, a step of reconciliation where you make restitution, where you go and you ask forgiveness of those you have harmed by your addiction and behaviors. Unless it will cause more harm than good. There are times it might do that. And sometimes that harm is to yourself. Some people, it's just not safe to make restitution with. It's not safe. And let God tell you that. Sometimes it's not safe because it puts you back in a place of abuse or danger, because that other person is not going to be released. That's where Jacob is following divine guidance in going back. And he's following the direct command of God in going back. Sometimes we need to just release the circumstances. That's where we have to wrestle with it overnight. Sometimes over a long night. We have to wrestle through that. And recognize when it's a danger. Sometimes it's a danger. Sometimes it's just not going to happen the right way. But we still are responsible to make restitution before we do what? What does Jesus say? If you're presenting your offering upon the altar, there remember your brother has something against you, leave your offering there before the altar and go. Be reconciled to your brother and then come and present your offering. What was Jacob supposed to be doing when he came back to the land? What was he said? What did his vow say? His
Build
vow-
an altar.
He would go to Bethel and he would build an altar. Does he go to Bethel now that he's reconciled with his brother? No, he doesn't. For some reason,
He forgets his vow.
he is still avoiding God in a sense. He doesn't go and fulfill that vow. He lets Esau go back home ahead of him, and then he follows slowly, and it says he arrived in peace to the city of Shechem, which is the land of Canaan, when he came from Padamaran, and he camped there in front of the city, and he purchased a portion of the field there. Where's he supposed to be going? Bethel. I've read so many commentaries where they complain about Dinah, about being bad because she went out and visited the daughters in the city, that sort of thing. Guys, you gotta quit blaming the victim. She's a victim. And she would not have been a victim. The whole incident that happens in Shechem would not have happened if Jacob had fulfilled his vow when he was supposed to. When I return to the land in peace, when I have been able to make peace with my brother and return to the land and return to my father's household in peace, he doesn't even go to his father's household right away. Then I will go to Bethel and build an altar. Instead, he tries to settle somewhere else. Why? We don't know. We're not told. We're not told. And he sets up a series of events that are heartbreaking. They're heartbreaking. What happens to Dinah is heartbreaking. She literally is kidnapped and raped and held as a hostage by the son of the chief of Shechem. And then he wants to buy her to be his wife because something in her was different than what he was used to. He did not have a good reputation. So they make this deal, right? I didn't want to talk about this, but there, so I have to. They make this deal. If Jacob had gone to his father's house into Bethel, if he had not stopped here, none of this would have happened. The men in Shechem, Dinah would not have been raped. Shechem would not have been slaughtered. They would not have made a bad arrangement, a false promise, to protect who? Their sister. Who are the ones that are, whose daughter is Dinah? Who's the mother?
Is it
Leah? Leah. The ones who go against Shechem and slaughter them all, who are they? Whose sons are they?
Leah's.
Leah's. When they confront their father, that he didn't protect Dinah, they say, our sister. They don't say your daughter. There's a rivalry here. There's a dysfunction in this family here that is brewing and building. He favors Rachel. He favors Joseph. They're the sons of Leah, the unfavored wife. Their full sister is taken. They defend her. And then Jacob gets mad, and I read this and I went, wait a minute.
So we're talking about Esau's lineage.
No.
No.
This is Jacob's family.
No. Who violated her?
No.
Who violated her again? Who was that?
Philistines.
Philistines. Okay.
They're descendants in Caleb. This is because
Through
he hasn't
Shechem.
had those descendants yet.
Okay.
This is in Shechem,
Yeah.
the son of Hamor, the Hivite,
Yeah.
a prince in the land. So they're from that area. They live there. He bought a land, and all of this happens. And then he complains to his sons when they have avenged their sister, because father did not. Jacob says to Simeon and Levi, you've brought trouble on me, not on us. He doesn't say us. He's not doing the whole family here. Making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. I am but few men. Now wait a minute, I thought he was 2 camps, right? They'll gather against me. They'll strike me, and I will be destroyed, my household and I. What? Wait a minute. Where's family? Whose sons are they? My sons, you have brought a disgrace on our family, right? He doesn't do that. And it continues. Rachel dies. Even after he's finally gone up to Bethel. He didn't go to Bethel until God spoke to him, said, get up and go to Bethel. All this has happened, get up and go. Come on. Don't stay where you're at. Go to Bethel. Fulfill your vow. And then it's where God himself changes his name. And then Rachel dies. Then we have this big section about Esau and his children. And we have Israel finding out, Jacob, that his son goes in and lays with Bilhah. Why did he do that? Why would he do that?
To usurp his father's place.
He wanted to take his father's place as the leader of the group because Dad didn't protect anybody, and Dad is just absolutely mourning over Rachel. Yeah, he's lost his favorite wife, but come on, step up, right? That's one theory. There's another theory that I found interesting that I learned this week. When Rachel dies, instead of bringing Leah into his tent, he brought Bilhah in.
His concubine, right?
He brought the concubine into his tent. Jacob so favored Rachel.
Yeah, he
When
just
Rachel
stayed,
dies,
yeah.
he brings in her servant,
Wow.
not his prior wife,
Wow.
not Leah. And getting back at Dad, because you know what? You can't do this to our mother. You have dishonored us. Well, Israel was in the land. Reuben went and slept with his father's concubine Bilhah, and Israel, Jacob, heard about it. He had 12 sons. Leah's sons were Jacob's firstborn, Reuben, Simeon, Levi. All three of them have now violated the first place in his mind. Reuben by trying to take over, but also don't dishonor our mother. They are the sons of Leah. Rachel's sons, Joseph and Benjamin. Then the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's female servant, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female servants, were Gad and Asher. These are all Jacob's sons who were born to him in Padan Aram. He's setting it up, continuing to set it up. He's reconciled with his brother. He did all the right things there. And he's still living in absolute dysfunction in his family. And God still blesses him. I don't know about you guys, but that to me is such a shock. He's doing all the wrong things with his family, but God is still blessing him. That is all setting things up. That's all setting things up for what happens next in Torah.
It would be really hard
Next
to do
in the
this.
story.
Keep getting the scripture come through my mind. Maybe there's an application. I was wounded in the house of my friends.
I was wounded in the house of my
This
friends.
keeps coming up, something to do with
These
this.
brothers are wounded in their family.
Mhm.
Esau was wounded in his family. Jacob is just continuing that lineage of favoritism. They are wounded against each other. We've got to break the cycle
It's
somehow.
also like I was getting the double tie-in that Yeshua, amongst his own, and his own knew him not, he was wounded in the house of those that should be his friends and accept him as Messiah. So it's parallel.
And if we will just wrestle with it and give it to him, but we don't have to continue in it.
Well, it says that he makes a way of escape that we might bear it. So the wrestling, it doesn't seem to be fruitful at the time.
If Jacob had gone to Bethel right away, this setup would not have continued. When we make a vow before God, we need to keep it. When we can reconcile, we need to reconcile. When we can't reconcile, we need to release that to God to deal with. And even when we reconcile, if it's not received, we have to release it. You know, we talk in Christian circles about forgiveness all the time, and sometimes that is used against victims quite heavily. You gotta forgive, you gotta forgive, you gotta forgive, you gotta forgive. Well, sometimes there are some things that are just almost not forgivable by us. And that's where we have to continue to release it to God. David wrote several psalms that are called the precatory psalms that are all about God. This person's talking bad about me. Smack his mouth. Right? That's kind of the way it works, because whatever he's praying for the one that's coming against him, God, do this, God, do this, God, you need to do this, God, you need to do this. It's all in direct correlation with the behavior of the other person. But something that really is key to me in it, he's calling for righteous judgment, but he's not executing that judgment himself.
This is a broken and a contrite heart he will not despise. So that's what we're talking, how he approached his brother, but he didn't fall through.
We have to release to God all of these things. We need, for reconciliation to take place, we need divine strategy, we need the wisdom, we need to make restitution where we can, we need to go in humility, and in all of this we need to wrestle with all of it within ourselves and release it to God. He wrestles with himself, or he wrestles with the Ish, until he gets a blessing. And he asks for that blessing. Ask God for the blessing
So
where we've been hurt.
I'm getting ahead, but when he returned to Bethel, then kept his vow, he was reinstated and the blessing came, right? Because his name was changed.
His name was changed again, that blessing is restated over him, yes, and that's not getting ahead because that's in this
Yeah,
portion.
okay.
It's in this portion, absolutely. When he goes to Bethel, his name is changed, just like the blessing that he wrestled for. And that blessing is given to him. And yet he is still set up a whole slew of events. One of the things that we recognize is that what happens in the lives of the patriarchs happens in our lives as well.
Sometimes
They're-
we're disjointed.
They are important
Out of
for
joint.
the future. They happen to Israel herself as a nation. They go into exile, they come back, they go into exile. They live in exile even in the land.
Captivity.
In fact, when they came back from exile, just like Jacob's coming back from exile, and they built their cities again, and they finally built the temple, when God told them, come on guys, through the prophets, you gotta build the temple. At the time of Yeshua, they're dwelling in the land, but they have not finished fulfilling their vow to God. They are dwelling in it trying to earn salvation. They're still looking for the Redeemer to come in a different way. They tried to negotiate that Redeemer through Rome, believe it or not. That's part of the Maccabean story that we'll talk about at Hanukkah. They were looking elsewhere for their redemption and their strength. They didn't look to God. They didn't go to Bethel in the same way that they should have. All of it, everything that happens in these stories in Torah is lived out in the life of Israel as a nation. And we live it out in our lives as believers too.
I was seeing the brokenness in the family and kind of thinking about how it is now. They don't necessarily now have 2 wives and 2 concubines and then kids from all 4. They have 3 divorces and kids from each family, and whatever family the person, the mom or the dad is favoring is that the family that is seen as the favored, and it's just and maybe an affair or something along the way, whatever. It's just
Sometimes.
it's like similar but
It's
different.
It's not that different,
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
just
What is that old show that used to do all the paternity tests?
Jerry
TV
Springer.
show. Jerry Springer, yeah. Jerry Springer people have nothing on Torah.
Yeah, another modern application I'm getting is that, you know what the NAR is, right?
Pardon?
The NAR, the New Apostolic Reformation.
I've heard of
Yeshua
it.
can't come back until we accomplish and take back the 7 mountains, the 7 pillars. Okay, so that's an element of Bethel, right, which is functioning out there. And so, as you said, we're getting ahead of God, we're taking the place of God, we're trying to do a work for God,
are
but it
we-
isn't His work. And they came originally to establish a meeting place, a place of right
And-
standing,
and the
then
question
they
is,
got away from
Is
that.
this from God
It's, yeah,
or is it not?
Yeah.
And that's where we have to use discernment and really seek the Lord.
yeah.
Does that mean God can't bless them in what they're doing? No, He still does, obviously, with many things. At the same time, are we trying to earn salvation? Are we trying to earn and trying to
Work
bring
out.
Messiah back by our actions?
That's what
The
they're doing.
Jewish nation is still doing that.
They're doing it too.
Many are.
They say He can't come back until they
TBN. Do you know why
establish all these
TBN was
things.
established?
Yeah.
Because the guys that established Trinity Broadcasting Network said they'd read in the scripture, it says when his name is broadcast
Proclaimed.
over the earth,
Yep, then the nations are.
then the nations all hear,
Yeah,
then he will come. What am I doing for him to come? You know what I need to do? What I need to do for him to come is bow before him.
yeah.
Bow before him. Do what he tells me to do as contributing, but not so that I can manipulate God into what I want.
So it's they're presenting their dead works, which is, you know,
And they're being Esau's,
oh yeah.
in a sense.
Oh yeah.
And it says that Esau is stubble, wood, hay, and stubble. Esau represents our flesh still.
Right.
But there's not,
So I got a question, if it's okay. So when we get into all the dukes, as I've said before, modern day, how that plays out, there's a purpose, the chiefs. There's a whole lot of chiefs, right? Yeah, I mean, look at how many they
Every town
mention.
had its own chief.
So, yeah, so that's mentioned more for another reason as well.
Mhm.
What do you see that reason mentioning by name the chiefs,
Uh,
singling them out?
If I were to do it, and I have not studied it out,
Right.
but I would first of all look at the meanings of the names.
Right,
Because the meanings of the names
Tell us
represent
something.
something.
yeah,
And the same is true with other things. That's why when you asked about the meaning of the name, my name is Elisheva in Hebrew.
mhm,
And it means consecrated to God.
okay,
Means set apart for God.
yeah,
And I've joked that, you know, there have been times I've tried to jump out of God's hand, but I think there's a bungee cord attached.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
You know, and I was dedicated from birth. And I know that. Does that mean I could have choose to live in rebellion against God? Absolutely I could.
right,
But I would be miserable and I probably wouldn't live much longer. That's kind of the way I see it now. Because God is going to hold us
yeah, accountable to it.
accountable, and He's
Yeah.
going to work with us. The names is what I would look at,
Right.
but we need to finish up this and
Sure,
then we can
sure.
talk. But I just wanted to present that the reconciliation is a key thing.
Mhm.
We've got to do it. At the same time, recognizing that there are places and times we can't because it's not safe.
There's times when you can reconcile, you can try to make right, and there's just with certain people conflicts that they're wounded, or you could be wounded. And even if your heart's right and you try to say, okay, I forgive, and let's go forward, but then that reoccurring something else behind the scene causes them to create a setup,
Forgiveness-
next conflict again and again.
Forgiveness
like you
does
have to
not-
wipe your hands.
Forgiveness does not require reconciliation in the same way, okay? We need to reconcile, but sometimes all we can do is reconcile with God
Right.
and ourselves.
Right. Then it's on their
Where
hands.
they're based on, yeah, and honestly, I may forgive you,
Mhm.
but I might not trust you.
True.
Because trust has to be re-earned. When trust is broken, it has to be re-earned. But that doesn't mean I don't forgive.
Right.
I still, because forgiveness says I'm releasing this to God. Now there are people, I'm honest, I'm learning to be very honest.
Mhm.
There are people that I really still struggle with forgiveness for. Because I felt so stabbed in the back. I don't know about you guys, but that's happened to me more than
Sure.
once, right?
Sure.
And I struggle with that. And that's where I keep coming back to God. I'm willing for you to make me willing to forgive them. Because I'm not so sure I'm really willing right now to forgive them. I've been cleaning out my house, getting rid of some things and cleaning things up, and I found something in one of the boxes that was made as a gift for me from a particular person. And it's ceramic and it's covered in real thick oil, and I'm like, "God, what do I do with this?" Everything in me wanted to just,
Chuck it.
ugh. But I knew I had to do something specific with it. And I ended up, I wrapped it in brown paper wrapping and set it aside until I could figure out what I needed to do with it. Then the same thing with the painting. I knew what to do with the ceramic, and I know what I need to do with the painting, but that's going to be harder to do. But with the ceramic, and after a few days of asking the Lord, what do I do to get rid of this? What do I do to break off what the attachments are to this? Because, you know, there are attachments to things.
Yeah.
And I wrapped it in more brown paper bag, and I put it in a bag, and then I took a hammer and I smashed it in little teeny tiny pieces. Father, I'm letting go. I really am. And what He showed me is what I'm doing was breaking off
Mhm.
the connection.
Mhm.
Lord, I'm
Soul
letting it go.
ties, soul ties.
I have to let this go. And I can't hold on to the emotional garbage.
Yeah.
Whether the other person deserves forgiveness or not is immaterial.
Mhm.
I still have to let it go. I still have to release them and release them to God. And maybe
Mhm.
when we do that, that will release them
Yeah. And ourselves.
from their stuff too. And that's why I found this so interesting about Rabbi Eric, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Tokajer, Tokajer, I guess, I don't know. Talks about by making things right with his brother, Jacob releases not just himself, but he releases Esau as well. Esau, it turns out, is not the villain we make him out to be. Esau was a man who, like all of us, chose to love the things of the world over the things of God. When have we not done that? Sometimes we have done that, right?
Yep.
When he realized the cost of his choice and what his choice cost him, he sought repentance. When he heard the blessing was gone, he cried. He wept. He was not happy about that. But the repentance he sought was a change in his situation, not a change in himself. We see this in how Esau responds in his anger against his brother, demonstrated by both his desire to kill Jacob, his anger at his parents, and his decision to marry Canaanite women, and then to go to Ishmael's children. We also see Isaac's blessing come to pass in the life of Esau. But when he forgives Jacob, he is able to hug him, and he is able to let go of it, and he is able to move on with his life too. Towards the end of the passage, we read that Esau moves out of the promised land. He takes his family and moves out to the side. They may not come back into the fold,
So we're
but
talking
they can get on to their life.
Edomites. I'm looking at today, modern day Edomites. They may or may not come. Some of them may, I don't know, or they're cursed and they won't come back.
But some of them might.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
It's-
we can't
we're
do
not
that
the
to
judge.
all individuals.
Right.
Esau, although he did not come back fully into the fold, at least he was then released.
So there's some reason.
We need to release people to
when
make
we get
that
into
choice.
saying Jacob I loved and Esau I hated, that's an interesting
I'll talk about that
concept.
later.
Right.
I can talk about that with you one-on-one, because
Yeah.
that's an idiom,
Yes.
and it's a very specific idiom,
Right.
and, yeah. So anyway, Father, thank you for your word, and thank you for the time. And I ask that you would, continue in this day, that as we continue in this day with you, that we will be blessed, because we've chosen to stick it out with you. We've chosen to be here. Lord, that we will have learned something, that we will be encouraged the way you want us encouraged. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. May you do the blessing. And then I gotta figure out Shelley's notes for turning all that off. And I wanna say thank you to those of you who are watching online. I always want to acknowledge them because, they're not here among us, but they are still a part of us. And Windchime is watching us online. Hi, Windchime.
Hi, Windchime.
Hi, Windchime.
Get better. Get well, right? Also, Regina and William in the state of Washington, and Shirley, if she was able to get on, Moshe's mom, Shirley. And there's a couple others that I'm not going to mention by name because they've not given me permission to do that. But thank you for watching and being a part of this. And we wanted to leave the blessing for all, right? May the Lord bless and keep you. May His grace and His face shine upon you. and give you peace. Lord bless you and keep you, right?